Hey, what's going on, Chelsea fans? Just quick heads up. This is an excerpt of a 2-hour megapod that we did covering all of Graham Potter. So again, this is just one part. If you want to see the other parts, check it out on YouTube. It'll be on our channel. Otherwise, if you want to listen to the entirety of the podcast, go to our, any podcast player, search London is Blue. You can get it there. Just a quick heads up. This is not the full pod, just an excerpt. Hope you enjoy it.
All right, Chelsea fans. Well, this time we want to bring in Chelsea youth Phil to talk about Graham Potter as well. Phil, I want to bring you in really because since the announcement has been made, or since the rumblings were pretty much pointing us all in one direction, Graham Potter, you've had a bunch of tweets out there which I thought have been really smart. I thought they've been really interesting. Obviously, you by your name have a very direct correlation to the youth side of everything, but it seems like you're pretty happy without being too presumptuous of what this is. But I just want to kind of get more than anything your view on Graham at a high level and kind of let you take it where you want based on kind of things you've seen. And if you do or don't want to bring up a certain crystal ball tweet that you threw out there, I'll leave that up to you.
It's certainly an interesting one on several levels because you can view it in isolation and then view it as part of the bigger picture. In isolation, Potter is obviously a very well-trending manager at the start of this season in particular, but in 2022, and that's what's led Chelsea to go and seek his services and bring him to Stamford Bridge. He obviously has a recent connection with helping develop academy talent. Unfortunately, not necessarily for Chelsea. He started with Tariq Lamptey. They've since signed Billy Gilmore, who may or may not end up back under his charge at Stamford Bridge, as a certain tweet may or may not have put out there. And Levi Cole was on loan down there as well. And that move in particular now may take on a different shape to see what Brighton do for the rest of the season. But they were also interested in Tino Livramento before he went to Southampton, and certainly from an academy perspective, we know that Brighton have appreciated Chelsea's academy players, and whether that was directly Potter or not, from my side, it's perhaps encouraging that there's a manager who's coming in who has shown a willingness to use talent to Brighton's gain and maybe can continue to do at Chelsea. But beyond that, I think there's quite an interesting conversation to be had about where Chelsea may go and how Potter fits into that. And as you alluded to, something I put on Twitter was that I've been suspicious for a while, not for any particular reason, but maybe it's just something I'd like to see happen, that the new ownership group may embark on a little bit of a broadening of their horizons, not necessarily imitating City Football Group, but bringing in partnerships with other clubs to diversify and open up a wider network for your recruitment. Brighton have done that really, really well. They've got a formal partnership with Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium, but they've got a much wider scouting network and much more diversity. So you've seen the likes of Jakub Moder come into the first team squad, Karen Bitoma, Moises Caicedo, Alexis McAllister, and so on and so forth. And they've got some more players who are out on loan right now who will continue that trend because whether Potter's there or not, they've got a structure that is built around doing this. And Chelsea haven't had that relationship. Last time we spoke, we were talking about the relationship with Vitesse that was very fruitful for both clubs for a long time. But since their change of ownership and then since Abramovich leaves Chelsea, I think that one's probably done and dusted now. So there's scope for opening this up and seeing where Chelsea go with it. And it might be a fringe benefit of having Potter. It might be something that the new ownership have identified as a key reason for bringing him in. He's shown in his 3.5 years at Brighton that he is not only willing to, but very capable of bringing these players back in at a point where they're ready to compete in Premier League football, integrating them and then improving them. Because when you can do that, it opens up so much more to your recruitment strategy than what we've seen from Chelsea in the last 5 years. You can buy cheap, develop, bring them back in, and then turn someone like Marco Correa into a £60 million player. 10 years ago, we had Michael Emenalo trying to implement something similar as the first real club in England to try to do that on such a scale. But you meet the resistance of first-team managers like Jose Mourinho, who only interested in winning now. So how all these dots join together, whether they happen or not, is the most interesting part of this to me, at least right now.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting with Graham as well because, he's always had to be creative and find the next thing and scout properly, which we'll talk about who he brought over in a second probably. But, I wonder what it would be like when all of a sudden, it's that funny kind of meme online, Phil, where it goes, when I was a kid, I always dreamed of this. I got to do stuff on a smaller scale. Now I'm still a kid, but I have adult money because I have an adult job. Look at what I just bought. Like, I wonder what Graham's going to do in his first shopping spree when he finds out his budget is 10 times what it used to be at Brighton. Does he continue, to develop and grow players? How does he balance with established, top form pros, kind of with that? And that's always been a big question mark, is how does he handle a big squad, maybe bigger names, bigger personalities versus these up and coming pros who are maybe a lot more willing to kind of buy into his system. He's going to have to figure out how to connect and build rapport with the current Chelsea squad.
Oh, absolutely, big time. And I'm encouraged on that perspective because he's a man who has a master's degree in leadership and in emotional intelligence, which is not something that your average football manager has. That's not to say that people who haven't developed those traits outside of a formal qualification, but this is someone who has had his professional career ended prematurely through injury and then sought an unconventional route to where he's ended up now. He worked in university sport. He's got education behind him. He's worked in different countries. He's worked in different roles. And just because he hasn't encountered a top flight dressing room before doesn't mean that he will be overawed or come up short when he's asked to deal with them. I'm optimistic from that point of view, but we've seen before that player power has brought around several managerial changes at Stamford Bridge. This is a new era. This is a new ownership. We've seen that they're not afraid to make bold decisions. And so from the other side of it, like you say, he's got a much bigger budget to spend now. How does that change the sort of players you look for? How does it change your squad building approach? And importantly, how does it integrate with whatever footballing structure Todd Bowley and company put into place? We're looking for a sporting director. We're now looking for a head of recruitment because Scott McLaughlin has left the club. One of the 5 staff that Potter has brought with him is a former head of recruitment who has played a key role at Brighton in being the go-between between Potter and the established recruitment team at Brighton to make sure that the players that are coming into the first team squad are players that will work with the way that Potter wants to play football. And that guy, Kyle Macaulay, comes very highly rated, was doing advanced stuff before a lot of other people in football were doing advanced stuff, knows his game really, really well. So if he's been trusted to come in with Potter, then you'd like to see a team integrated to support that. Otherwise, why are you bringing them in the first place?
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. Yeah, it sounds like he's going to get 5 staff to come over, a couple of his assistants on top of that, the goalkeeper coach, Ben Roberts, and then Kyle McCauley, like you're saying. Obviously, Graham is very well liked in the media, right? He's a bit of the darling because he's overachieving with a small team. I feel like he gives vibes off of, and this is embarrassing, Gareth Southgate. I feel like he gives those vibes where Southgate was promoted from the youth to the full men's team, and I think people are kind of surprised at how he's done. I mean, Chelsea, I feel like, have really not been a media darling for obvious reasons over the years. Do you think this changes any perception for the club? I think Matt Law even called this a brave appointment because they were really going for not the Pochettino or the Zidane or someone of that ilk. They're really kind of going right field for an American expression here.
Oh, it's absolutely unexpected for what you would have predicted Chelsea to do in a post-Tuchel era. And I particularly like the Gareth Southgate comparison because I do think that they have similar views on football and similar views on how to interact with people. But one of the biggest things I think that my mind has changed on in football in certainly the last 5 years, if not longer, is that the people are more important than the player or the coach or the tactician, because that's fundamentally what everything boils down to. And if Potter is able to lead a strong dressing room, we've got the football credentials. He's just now having to do it on a bigger scale. If he can bring that all together, then I think he'll be onto a winner. But it is very, very unusual for Chelsea to do this. Obviously, they've only had a couple of English managers in the last 30 years, Frank Lampard, Glenn Hoddle. You have to go back to the start of the Premier League era if you want to find another one. It's rare for an English manager to be given a top 6 job at all. It's even rarer for them to succeed. And as far as Chelsea becoming something of media darlings, I don't think that's ever going to be the case. There's certainly been a vibe from certain quarters of Potter deserves a big job. Oh, wait, not that one, though. We don't want to see him go there. We'd like to see him go to a different club or get the England job or whatever, because there's still a stigma attached to Chelsea for everyone's individual reasons. But it's going to be an interesting test case, because English managers don't get that level of opportunity too often in this country. And they certainly don't get a 5-year contract from the ownership group. We know that several long-term contracts will be given out to the playing squad this summer. Real statements of intent, possibly some financial management there to amortise all of this new money over much longer term. But they've gone out and paid a reported 20 million buyout clause to bring a manager in. So if you're not going to give him a significant amount of time to become embedded in what you envisage the next era of Chelsea to be, then I don't know why you do that. So I think it's the biggest unknown in a while for Chelsea, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
All right. The easy home run question for you. What about the youth? What about the youth with Graham Potter? How do you think him and Neil Bath going to work? Is he ever going to step across the road at Cobham? Do you think he's going to attend some matches, hopefully not UEFA Youth League, because that was bad?
Yeah, the less said about the defeat in Zagreb, the better.
We'll touch on that later.
We will. Hopefully there'll be better results to report upon when we next chat. I'd be surprised if he doesn't show his face at certain games. It's such an easy win for a manager to do that, whether they intend on doing it regularly or not. If they just show their face at 1 or 2 games, their picture's there, people report on it, I report on it, and it's an easy PR win. He's spoken before about his assistant Billy Reid being the stronger conduit between the academy and the first team, and somebody who keeps him frequently updated. Brighton's academy has been on the rise for quite a while now, and Potter's spoken about the importance of having that connection with the fans and the community and the club that comes through the academy, and the importance of giving them the opportunities when they deserve it. And it's something that I imagine every manager has said. I'm long past the days of trusting them at their word. It's show me, don't tell me. I'm always prefer to be optimistic when managers come in. There hasn't been a great flow through Brighton. They've had such a diverse talent pool. They've got a young squad, yes, but understandably, if their academy has been trying to reach a certain high standard, then it's not going to be easy. But then Robert Sanchez is in goal. They brought him over at 16. Solly March is a youth team graduate who has become a key regular part of their squad for them. There's 1 or 2 others who've had fleeting moments and coming through. Andy Moran. They've been. The kid Evan Ferguson they signed from Ireland is making some waves. There'll be others that I'm sure I'm forgetting because I'm not as expert on Brighton's academy as I am Chelsea. But let's see what happens. There's not just the immediacy of the academy and several new contracts. Harvey Vale signed a new contract now. Charlie Webster's expected to follow. These were players that several people, myself included, had doubts about whether they would sign. And you go out and Armando Broja signs a new long-term deal. Carney Chukwuemeka comes in, and several players who've gone out on loan have gone out on dry loans. There's no options. And I don't know if all of these threads come back to the idea that Chelsea were going to make a change at manager. If you believe that it wasn't necessarily the result in Zagreb that did for Tuchel, and that Chelsea have been thinking about making a change and identified Potter a while ago, if you go into these negotiations with the board and they say, well, hold on, this might happen, everyone hedges their bets and see what happens moving forward. There's always that fresh optimism when a new manager comes in that everyone can hit reset and you can see, is there going to be more of a pathway? Are there going to be more opportunities? How does the new manager see the academy, and how does he see me as a young player? Sometimes a new manager comes in and you're not optimistic. I wasn't particularly optimistic when Antonio Conte came in because he didn't have a strong track record of doing it at bigger clubs. Now, with hindsight, he didn't do enough for me, but he did more than some more experienced managers have done. And I'm sitting here with open eyes and open ears and I wait to see what he does.
I mean, definitely a British optimist would also say that he has a national interest, right, in developing those young players as well. So we'll see. I thought it always catches me off guard when when I see the stat that no English manager has ever won the Premier League, obviously 92. A lot of blame for Sir Alex Ferguson being a Scotsman and having won so many titles that he did with Manchester United. But I think it's a bit premature. People are talking about his 5-year contract. I think kind of touched on it. It's like, look, your contract is only as good as you are to the club, aka winning and stuff. But new expectations, I think they're going to hit reset, just try to figure out a new operating path, get top 4. If you sneak a trophy, great. But it's going to be more, I think, about how does Bowley and Igbali get this kind of cohesiveness and collaboration running between kind of Neil, Emma, and now Graham, and just getting that sorted. I think they just want to get that established and then see some progress this season. But like as Chelsea fans, Fulham away, which isn't really an away trip, thankfully, Salzburg at home on Wednesday, and then turning on Liverpool at Sunday. The Queen just passed away today, and so we don't know if there's games going to be delayed or not. But if not, he's going to have to hit the ground running, because our form was kind of iffy up to this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I think somebody put it well earlier today when they said that at Brighton, you can afford to lose the odd match because there's far more scope for where you finish. If Brighton are finishing between 8th and 15th, I think they'd be happy. At Chelsea, you don't get very much scope for losing at all. And you come in fresh at a new club, you want to hit the ground running. And Fulham's not going to be an easy place to play at the minute. Liverpool didn't win there. Brighton didn't win there. Potter went there a few weeks ago himself. And we know what that can be. And to your point from before that about how Chelsea come together as one club now, the sporting director and the head of recruitment and the team that they build around is not just important for the obvious reasons, but we now have a new manager at the helm, and at the end of the season, Chelsea have the option of buybacks for the likes of Tammy Abraham and Tino Livramento on decisions that were made under a previous ownership and under a previous manager. We don't know how this season's going to go for those players. We don't know how the season's going to go for Chelsea, but they are armed with options to bring in talent that may be at a cheaper than market rate. Abraham's somewhere in 68 million. Livramento's around 40 million. That could play right into the hands of an ownership group that have not been shy in throwing money around this summer, and with several holes still in the squad to fill, depending on how Potter wants to approach things. Yes, he's played a predominant 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 at Brighton, but that doesn't necessarily mean he will at Chelsea. He may in the short term because the squad is completely built for that. But if he now has big time money to spend and the trust of the board and hopefully a robust recruitment team supporting him, then all bets are off as to what to expect tactically in terms of player profile. But I think you can learn from what he's done at Östersunds and then at Swansea and at Brighton of the type of player he likes and the type of football he likes. And let's see what he does at Chelsea now.
All right. Well, obviously, we're not going to stick our necks out of the line and predict anything crazy. We just want to kind of set the baseline for, kind of where we initially think things might go, get some different perspectives. So, Phil, thank you so much for kind of bringing the youth perspective and also just kind of your perspective as a football fan. You've seen a lot and you have a lot of good insights. So thanks for kind of sharing the Potter feedback.
Anytime.